listening to Your Secret is Safe with Me, non-judgmental talk about infidelity with Dr. Marie Murphy. If you're looking for new perspectives on complicated relationship issues, you've come to the right place.
Days go by, they're crawling by.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Marie Murphy. I'm a relationship coach and I help people who are engaging in anything they think counts as infidelity to deal with their feelings, clarify what they want, and make decisions about what they're going to do. No shame, no blame, no judgments. A lot of the so-called advice for people who are engaging in any kind of infidelity is little more than thinly veiled judgment, but that is not what I provide. I believe that you are entitled to guidance and support that respects the fullness of your humanity and the complexity of your situation, no matter what you're doing. So if you're ready for some relief, let's talk. You can schedule an introductory coaching session with me through my website, mariemurphyphd.com. And you can also learn more about the current packages I offer clients beyond that introductory session, as well as my current pricing on the services page of my website. I offer confidential, compassionate coaching via Zoom, which means we can work together no matter where you're located. I can't wait to meet you. Okay, in last week's episode, I offered some guidance for how you can begin to get your bearings if you're in an infidelity situation that is very new. This week, I'm going to speak to those of you who have been in your infidelity situation for a while. A while can mean many things. For some people, it means a number of months. For some people, it means a number of years. The specific duration of your infidelity situation isn't as important as you having gotten to a point where you think you're stuck in your infidelity situation, or you think that you have tried to figure out what to do about your infidelity situation, but you quote unquote can't figure it out. Or you think that there's really no way for your situation to get better unless something changes that you don't have the power to control. In other words, you think that the situation is out of your hands and something needs to happen in order for things to change, or anything along these lines, right? If that's you, if you are thinking anything along those lines about your infidelity situation, I'm going to throw down a little tough love for you today. If you want to resolve your infidelity situation and you have not yet figured out how to do that, here's the deal. You have to be willing to keep going. Before I go any further, let me clarify something that is really important that I haven't mentioned on the podcast lately. Resolving, quote unquote, your infidelity situation can take many forms and it can mean many different things depending on the specifics of your unique situation. So when I say resolve your infidelity situation, that isn't code for quit cheating and recommit to your spouse. Now, that sort of resolution wouldn't even be an option on the table for everyone I work with anyway. Not everyone I work with has a spouse. And of course, there are many different types of infidelity situations or ways to be involved in an infidelity situation. So a resolution, quote unquote, to your situation could take many forms. Now, that said, there are defining attributes of a resolution, in my opinion, and those are that you pick a particular course of action in relation to your situation for reasons that you like, and you commit to sticking with that course of action, and you commit to making the best of what you've chosen to do. If you want to consider why that might be doing, I encourage you to listen to episode 100 of this podcast, which is called The Point of Resolving Your Infidelity Situation. For some people, resolving their situation, at least in the short term, means they decide to keep on doing what they're doing. Or put differently, they decide not to make any changes in what they're doing, but they make peace with that, right? That's the resolution in that sort of scenario. They're doing what they're doing, but they're not going to fuss about it anymore. They're going to decide that this is just the deal for now. And just to be really clear about this, for some people, that does mean that they decide they're going to keep cheating and doing all of the things that go along with that, like lying to people, right? Let's just be really clear that that is an option that is open to you. Some people don't want anything to do with that option, and that's completely fair enough, but it is an option. And for some people, it's attractive. And for those of you who think you can't decide what to do about your situation, it may be worth considering the pros and cons of that approach. And if you want to do that, you may want to listen to episode 82, which is called How to Cheat and Keep Your Sanity Intact. Being able to say, I don't want to make a decision, but I'm just going to embrace that and keep on living my life without freaking out about it is very different from continuing to indulge in the belief that you can't make a decision or that you're stuck or that something needs to come along and change in order for anything to be different. That's really important to emphasize. Okay, now let's move on so that I can yell lovingly, of course, at those of you who think you are stuck in your infidelity situation and can't find a way to resolve it and have been thinking this way for what you consider to be a long time, maybe months, maybe years, doesn't really matter. Sometimes when we've been struggling with something for a while, when we've been trying to deal with a particular challenge for what we think of as a long time, and nothing seems to be changing, we start to think that we are entitled to have gotten somewhere different already. We may think that we've worked so hard to figure our situation out or done so much to try to resolve whatever it is we're contending with, and we should have some relief by now. God damn it, right? We think that things should be different already, and by different, we usually mean easier or simpler or clearer or less confusing or less hard. If we've been trying, in our estimation, really hard at something for a long time and our efforts haven't gotten their desired results, we think that something has gone wrong. And we may think that by now, given all we've already done, we've suffered enough and we shouldn't have to suffer anymore. And when we think this way, when we operate from these kinds of beliefs, we tend to do things or not do things, as the case may be, that prove us right. If we think, I've tried everything and I just can't find my way out of this conundrum, we tend to behave as if we really can't find our way out of our conundrum. And then we don't find our way out of it. What that may mean in practice is that we either stop trying to resolve our infidelity situation, or we keep trying approaches that just aren't working, or we try new approaches, but we expect them to bring us an instant resolution, and we don't give them enough of a chance to actually benefit us. And then nothing much happens. And we tell ourselves that this is evidence that we truly cannot make any changes and we're just doomed to stay stuck. Here's the tough love, people. Trying to do something does not entitle you to any particular outcomes. Putting effort into something does not mean that you are guaranteed any results or should be guaranteed any particular results. Even if you have spent years trying to resolve your infidelity situation, that does not mean that you somehow deserve to have the whole thing sorted out by now. Now, that's not to say that effort doesn't count for anything. I think there is tremendous value in effort in many situations, and sometimes I truly believe that making an effort is intrinsically valuable, even if it doesn't get us to the results we want. But we are not entitled to get a particular outcome that we want simply because we've tried to get it or tried really hard to get it. And when we think that we deserve to have gotten what we want by virtue of having expended a certain amount of effort, we set ourselves up to feel sorry for ourselves or pity ourselves or feel like victims of our circumstances. And that's all fine if what you want to do is sit in your dirty diaper all day long or all year long or for your entire lifetime or for however long you want to. If you want to be able to sit around and say, well, I tried everything, but it just didn't work, so now I'm really stuck, or I'm definitely stuck for sure, you have that option, and I will not attempt to wrestle it away from you. But if what you want is to resolve your infidelity situation or reach whatever goal it is that you have or create whatever it is that you want to create in your life, you have to be willing to keep going, even if you think you've tried really hard, and even if you think you've tried everything, and even if you think you shouldn't have to do anything more to get what you want. Getting what you want from what you've already tried doing may not be an option, but you do have the option to keep going and keep trying new things. And that might not sound like fun if you think you've already worked hard enough or suffered enough in the pursuit of what you want. But if you really want to get where you say you want to go, that's really the only option you have. The great news is, though, that does not have to be a problem. You do not have to make the fact that you have not resolved your infidelity situation yet into a terrible thing. I know you may think it's a rather terrible thing. I know you might think that you have this unsolvable problem on your hands and woe is you, and you've tried everything and it's just so hard. And why does life have to be this hard? I get it. I know. You may have spent 10 years feeling stuck in your infidelity situation, and me telling you that isn't a problem may sound like heresy, or it may sound really insulting. So often when we think we've had a hard time dealing with something, we do think that having a hard time is a big problem and needs to be considered a big deal. Don't worry, I've been there. I know what it's like to be very attached to the idea that I have suffered and my struggle is real and that I deserve some sort of martyr prize for what I've been through or something like that, right? But I want you to consider the possibility that thinking this way is not going to help you get what you want unless what you want is to feel sorry for yourself or keep on feeling sorry for yourself. And by the way, feeling sorry for yourself or thinking that you've struggled enough does not mean there's anything wrong with you. It's not a reflection of your fundamental worth or an indication of bad character. Not at all. It's a totally human tendency. But usually, there are things that we want more than we want to feel sorry for ourselves. And if you want to get those things, you're going to have to be willing to stop feeling sorry for yourself and do something else instead. And to that effect, if you think you've been stuck in your infidelity situation for a while, or have believed that you can't resolve your infidelity situation for a while, but you really want to resolve your infidelity situation, here are 5 things I recommend you start doing right now. Number 1, if you have been trying to resolve your infidelity situation for months or years or longer, and it seems like it's been hard or impossible, and you feel like you've been trying so hard to make change to no avail, and you're kind of feeling sorry for yourself, I recommend you allow yourself to have a pity party. Have your pity party and make it epic. Allow yourself to really go there. Feel as sorry for yourself as you possibly can. Let yourself really believe that you've tried everything to deal with your situation and it hasn't worked, or it hasn't been possible despite your very best efforts. Whatever the specific storyline is for you, get into it. Let yourself go there and then decide you're going to be done with it. Done with the pity party, that is. Sometimes there is great value in allowing ourselves to say something along the lines of, woe is me, it's been so hard. I've had such a tough time. And then just sit around in our poopy pants for a while. Sometimes we have to allow ourselves to truly believe that we are powerless before we can claim our power. Sometimes we have to allow ourselves to believe that we are a victim before we can consider the possibility that we might not be a victim, or at least might not be a victim to the extent that we thought we were. So if you need to wallow a little bit, go for it. It's your party and you can cry if you want to. And if you want to, there is so much value in just getting it out. But if you want anything to change, your opportunity lies in being willing to take responsibility for the things you have the power to control. So have your pity party. Sit around in your dirty diaper for another day or 2, or 3 if you need to. And then decide on purpose that you are going to take responsibility for what you can within your situation, even if you don't know exactly what that's going to mean in practice yet. Now, sometimes we don't want to do this. Sometimes we don't want to take responsibility because we think that doing so will be hard or otherwise unpleasant. But what many people find is that taking responsibility, even if that starts with very small shifts, is actually easier and more pleasant than the alternatives. Here's the second thing I want you to start doing. Be willing to keep going. One of the most basic yet important things you can begin to take responsibility for is the way you think about your infidelity situation and its resolution or lack thereof. Simply changing your attitude from, this has been going on way too long and I shouldn't have to deal with this anymore. I should have figured this out already. This is going to be too hard or something like that, to I am willing to do whatever it takes to resolve my situation, even if I don't know exactly what that entails yet, is a powerful shift. The first kind of thinking I described divorces you from your own power. The second kind of thinking puts you back in the driver's seat of your own life. It's important to affirm your willingness to keep going and keep working towards resolving your infidelity situation because there are some things in life that do not have a guaranteed endpoint. Some things just take as long as they take. And if we want to see those things through, we have to be willing to keep going even though we don't know exactly where the finish line is. So if you really want to resolve your infidelity situation, you can do yourself a tremendous favor by deciding that you are willing to keep going and by being willing to do whatever it may take to get you to your desired result. Now, I don't mean that your infidelity situation will take forever to resolve. It does not need to take forever to resolve. But we need to be aware of the fact that when we think things like, oh, it should be done already, this is taking too long, or I can't stand not knowing when I'm going to be done with this, we end up interfering with the process of resolving our situation. So do yourself a favor. Decide you're willing to keep going and let that be the end of that matter. That brings me to point number 3. Evaluate the strategies you've been employing to resolve your infidelity situation and ditch them if they aren't helpful. As they say, one definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. So often, what I see in my clients is that folks who have been, quote unquote, trying to resolve their infidelity situation for months or years or even longer than that, is that they've been doing the same things over and over again, and they're not benefiting them in any way. They keep doing the same things over and over again anyway. They keep putting a lot of effort into effectively banging their heads against the wall. And I have the utmost empathy for this because A, banging our head against the wall just hurts. And B, we usually keep doing the same things over and over again when we just don't know what else to do, right? And that's not a fun place to be. And we can all be forgiven for that kind of a strategy. But all the empathy in the world will not change the fact that if you keep doing the same things, if you keep approaching your situation in the same ways, you are not likely to get different results. Things are not likely to change if you keep doing the same unhelpful stuff. So you need to be really honest with yourself about what exactly it is you've been doing to, quote unquote, try to resolve your infidelity situation, and whether or not what you're doing is working for you in any discernible way. Sometimes when people tell me they've been trying really hard to resolve their infidelity situation, or they've been doing all these things, it turns out that what they've actually been doing does not actually add up to all that much, right? Or the other thing that sometimes happens is they've been very actively doing a lot of things, but those things don't really do much for them other than help them go around and around in circles, right? So if you want to get unstuck, it may be time to take a clear look at what you've been trying, or quote unquote trying, in your efforts to resolve your infidelity situation, and to be radically honest with yourself about whether your methods are working for you in any way or not, right? And if they aren't, I cannot encourage you enough to be willing to set the old ways down and try something different. And that, of course, brings me to point number 4. Be willing to try different things and be willing to invest in the different things you try. At the risk of sounding like a broken record here, If what you've been trying to do to resolve your infidelity situation hasn't worked yet, it may be time to try new things. And you may need to try the new things in a dedicated way in order to get any benefit from doing them. Just about any practice for making change or any system for making change requires sustained application or sustained utilization in order to be effective. Let's say you want to recover from an injury. You usually can't just go to physical therapy once and then be all better. Or you can't just do your recovery exercises by yourself once and then be all better. You will probably have to do a bunch of things consistently over time to see any benefits. And you may need to be willing to continue doing things that don't seem to help you all that much at first. You may have to be willing to commit to trying something long enough for you to stand the chance of benefiting from doing it. And if you felt stuck in your infidelity situation for any length of time, this may not be what you want to hear. You may want me to tell you that if you just do 3 simple things, your situation will quickly or even instantly become easier to deal with, right? When we're sick of our situations and we're desperate for relief, we may really want to believe that we're just one new thing away from total clarity. But that may be an unrealistic expectation. Now, when I say that you may have to commit to doing something for a while in order to get any benefit from doing it, I don't mean that you have to stick with doing anything you hate forever. That's not the point. If you try some new method for addressing your infidelity situation and you find it absolutely terrible, you don't have to keep doing it. For instance, a lot of people tell me like, oh, I read these books that were about my infidelity situation, and they said I had to do this and this and this because I'm the one cheating, and I really don't like doing any of it, but the book said I have to, so I've kept at it. And that always breaks my heart a little bit. You don't have to keep doing the things that you are sure you don't like. That's not the point. Rather, the point is that even the best methods or approaches are unlikely to yield instant solutions. To use my own work as an example, sometimes people schedule an introductory coaching session with me and they say, well, I've been dealing with my infidelity situation for years, and I've been to several therapists, and I've tried all these other things, and none of the therapists have helped me, and none of the other methods have helped me, but I know that you're going to be able to help me like no one else has. And frankly, quite often people do find my approach different and uniquely helpful. But that doesn't mean that my work provides people with an instant and total fix. A lot of people find some relief, even great relief, right away after their first coaching call with me. And I think that's just how it should be, and that's certainly how I want it to be. But when people come to me with situations that have been years in the making, and they think that I'm going to solve all of their problems in one coaching call, they are bound to be disappointed. And I say that with the belief that my approach to coaching is pretty darn good. I believe that there is tremendous value in what I have to offer. I feel great about the work I do, and I love what I have to offer as a coach. But it's my clients and what they bring to our work together that creates the success of the coaching process for them. What I bring to the coaching process is very important, but what the client brings to the coaching relationship is equally, if not more important. I can get on the Zoom call with you and do all the things I do, and if you don't pay any attention, if you don't want to hear what I have to say, if you don't want to try out the tools that I teach you, then nothing much is going to happen. And that's true of any other process or method or approach to dealing with your infidelity situation. Doesn't matter how good the approach is if you don't put effort into making use of it and making use of it consistently. And that's true of a lot of other things in life that are worth doing. Brushing your teeth works pretty well if you have decent technique and you do it every day. But if you only do it once or twice ever, it's not going to be all that effective. The best coach in the world can tell you how to improve your golf swing, but it's the way you put their guidance into use and the practice you put in that really makes the magic happen. So, finding an approach to resolving your infidelity situation that you like and are willing to put into use is really important, right? And you may have to try a few things before you find the right thing. The first thing or the first 10 things you tried might not have worked, even if you tried them in the quote unquote right ways and with great dedication. You may have to try the 11th thing in order to find the tools that are going to help you get where you want to go, or even the 12th thing, right? And of course, if you aren't really trying to make use of the things you're trying, quote unquote, it may be time to call a duck and acknowledge that. Don't give something a half-ass shot and then say that it didn't work. Okay. Point number 5. Be willing to bust yourself on what you're getting out of staying, quote unquote, stuck. I have news for you people. If you have stayed stuck in regards to your infidelity situation for any length of time, you're getting some benefit out of doing that. The problem is that it's sometimes hard to see what benefits we're getting from staying stuck. So it can be really helpful to have an outsider's perspective to help us see what it is we can't see ourselves. Just for example, though, when we tell ourselves we're stuck and we can't figure out what to do about our infidelity situation, we relieve ourselves of having to make choices and make changes. And this may be a tremendous benefit to us if we're terrified of making changes we think we might have to make if we were actually going to make some choices about our infidelity situation. And indeed, in the short term, you may get the benefit of avoiding the discomfort associated with doing something you're scared to do. Getting some benefit out of staying, quote unquote, stuck is totally common and nothing to be ashamed of. That's not the issue. The issue is that in the longer term, getting those benefits may not actually be that much of a win. Short-term benefits may turn into long-term drawbacks. So what I want you to do is ask yourself what you think you might be getting out of staying stuck in your infidelity situation. What does staying stuck help you avoid? What does staying stuck enable? How might staying stuck be pretty comfortable and convenient for you, even if it's also very uncomfortable in some ways? And here's the $1 million question. Are you willing to give up those benefits or quote unquote benefits? If you want anything to change, you are going to have to give those benefits up. Okay, so to recap the points I've covered today, if you think you've been stuck in your infidelity situation for a long time, here are 5 things you can start doing right now. Number 1, if you think you've tried to resolve your situation and it just isn't working, but you shouldn't have to work any harder, have yourself a pity party and make it a good one. And then be done with that pity party and decide you're going to pick yourself up and start taking responsibility for what is in your power to control. 2, decide that you're willing to keep going. Having this attitude is essential. One of the first things we can do to take a new degree of responsibility for resolving our infidelity situation is to decide on purpose what we are going to think about the whole thing. Being willing to keep going will translate into taking action and continuing forward instead of just spinning your wheels and staying stuck. 3, evaluate the strategies or quote unquote strategies you've employed thus far to try to resolve your infidelity situation and ditch them if they aren't helping you. Yes, we may keep on doing the same things and expecting different results for reasons that are perfectly understandable. But doing the same things won't get you different results. So be willing to check yourself and try new things. And that actually is point number 4. Be willing to try new approaches and really invest in the new approaches you decide to try. There are lots of different approaches out there for resolving an infidelity situation, and you may have to give more than one a good, thorough try before you find tools that you like. But even the best strategies are useless if you don't utilize them well. Number 5, be willing to bust yourself over and over again on what you get out of staying stuck. This may not be pleasant to hear, but as I already said, if you have stayed stuck in your infidelity situation for any length of time, you are getting something out of that. And again, that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. That's not a failing on your part. But if you want to resolve your infidelity situation, if you want things to be different, if you want to make changes and choices, you're going to have to get clear on what you're getting out of staying stuck and be willing to let go of those benefits. Okay, everyone. If you have been listening to all of this and you're like, cool, I know what I need to do now and I'm going to go do it, then that's great. Sometimes all we need is a little guidance and we're off to the races. So if that's where you are, go get to work. But if you've listened to this episode, or any of my episodes for that matter, and thought to yourself, well, this sounds great, but I need help doing these kinds of things, that's what I am here for. As your personal coach, I am here to help you apply the tools and concepts I talk about on the podcast to the specifics of your own life. And having me as your coach means that you not only turbocharge your learning process and the application of what you're learning to your own situation, it also means you have someone to be accountable to. And sometimes that is the most valuable thing in the world. So when you're ready to work with me, the first step is to schedule an introductory coaching session with me, and you can do that through my website, mariemurphyphd.com. Together, we will get down to the business of simplifying things for you, finding you some relief, and ultimately making choices and changes that you feel great about. Okay, everyone, thank you all so much for listening. If you have enjoyed what you've heard, I would appreciate it if you would do me the kindness of giving me, the podcast anyway, a 5-star rating on iTunes. Your ratings help other people who would benefit from hearing what I have to say find this show. So please help other people who need a non-judgmental approach to infidelity out and take a moment to post a rating. Have a great week, everyone. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to Your Secret is Safe with Me with Dr. Marie Murphy. Make sure to click subscribe to get updates on our latest episodes.